let's get into the next team. That team is the Columbus Blue Jackets, baby, spending that cash.
Yes, they are.
Let's how much money is Gaudreau making this season? Look at that.
My man is making some quality top cheddar.
I mean, my man is making some good dough, and let's just get into it, man. Like there's a lot to like here. They invested heavily into the future with like Gaudreau and Laine. I can understand that. I mean, currently they are cap compliant. They are over roster size. Like I could see a guy like Voracek hitting the road down the road, but that's a whole different conversation. So let's get into the depth chart. So Gaudreau and Laine, we made a video early on the channel, talked about it. Looks like they'll be paired together.
Yep.
That'll be interesting. Talking about that center situation will be interesting to see who will ultimately become that first line center. Mm-hmm. Whether that be Jenner, whether that be Roslovic, whether that be Sillinger. If you want to put a young guy in that situation, which we said in the video, I don't think that's the best idea. Mm-hmm. But I mean, looking up front, I do like what I see offensively, and especially with the potential. I think that, Laine's got a world-class shot. I think Gaudreau is an amazing finisher himself and a good playmaker, a great playmaker. I mean, there's not much not to like about that first line. If the center does his job defensively and just distributes the puck well, I could see them replicating over 100 points. I could. I think the second line, very, very solid second line. I think Voracek is a completely overpaid at 8.25. For 8.25, you want at least a point per game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he's a very good player, but just that's an overpayment. I mean, he's a playmaker. 6 goals, 56 assists, 62 points. Like, he needs guys around him that scores. And is Nyquist and Roslovic are those guys are true goal scorers? You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be surprised if you see a dip in production offensively from Voracek because I don't think he has the finishers around him. So, what are your thoughts on this roster up front?
I mean, obviously, you pack a big punch with your top line. But after that, it's kind of like it's iffy, right? It kind of moves around. Yeah, Voracek, he really does rely a lot on his other. He's a pure playmaker.
Correct.
He doesn't really go for the goal himself. And I think if they want to be productive and impactful to their season this year, they're going to have to really have him shoot the puck more and actually go for the shots and try to score more. I think his playmaking abilities is going to help him with that because everybody's going to look for him to make the play. And if he takes a shot, he may surprise a goalie or two. But I really think that it's going to really fall on him to change his game style just a little bit, just to help, fill in that scoring hole and so on. Yeah. As far as their third and fourth line, it's kind of a mixed bag because obviously you don't expect these guys to score all the time or expect too much offense from them. But pardon me. But if you look at them, there's some young guys in there in what would be considered their third line. So you look at these guys and you're like, okay, what can they bring to the table? Let's see what they can do. As far as their fourth line, more of a veteran line. Just far as like two of the players are like technically in their prime, 27, 29, but they have a young 21-year-old as their right winger, and you hope that maybe he can make a difference. Maybe he can learn from these guys and up his game and maybe get some more points. I mean, last season he played 62 games, got 14 points, 7-7. Hey, not too bad for a young kid coming into the league. And you kind of want him to make that step up this year, maybe become a 20 to 30 point player. Yeah. And then that'll help them out a bit. But the big question is Kirill ready for that step in that third line? Maybe he drops down to the fourth line, and maybe Jaeger moves up to the third line. But outside of that, it's kind of like juggling and trying to figure out where the components are going to fit properly as you go into the season with the third and fourth line for them. But as far as the first two lines, they're okay. Again, Voracek is going to have to change his game just a little bit, and I think add a little bit more offense. The other guys just have to be really good at finishing, and that's the part where we're not sure, right? Because if you look at all their points, none of them are really goal scorers, like heavy goal scorers. They're more of playmakers. So you have three playmakers together. So look for maybe at some point during the season, maybe some mixing of the, anywhere from the second to third, the fourth line, like trying to get somebody who can finish, getting in a line with Voracek, so that way he can have someone to pass the puck to, and finding that type of chemistry. But I think they're at the beginning of the season, they're going to find it really difficult to get scoring until they find a groove.
The one thing I'll comment before we get into the defense is having Sean Kuraly and Robinson, right? Kuraly had 30 points and Robinson had 27. That's extremely good production from your fourth line. Yeah. Like, that's extremely good. I like Kuraly. I was a fan of him when he was there in Boston. I think he adds a nice grit to that game. I mean, he's not, he's 6'2", adds a nice he adds a nice dynamic to this roster. But I agree, like, there's gonna have to be either Voracek's gonna have to change his game a bit, or Nyquist and Roslovic are gonna have to bury the puck.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they will with him. That's yet to be seen. So let's get into the defense. I mean, start with the franchise guy, Werenski.
Yeah.
Actual Iron Man, 25 minutes time on ice, almost 26. 68 games last season, 11 goals, 37 assists for 48 points. Extremely good defenseman. Young, he's only 25. He's making 9.5. He's worth it. Currently, they have him paired with Adam Boqvist. 22 points last season in 52 games. Very solid. You have Ravikanov. You have Gudbranson. Like that. I mean, like, I look at these guys. Gudbranson. Yeah, I know. Gudbranson, like, I've seen him play. I like his game. I think he's a solid defender. I mean, his plus minus even shows that. Then you have Jake Bean and Andrew Peeke. It looks like the bottom pairing is going to be a little bit on the younger side. I think Boqvist is pretty young. Like, it looks like the theme of this team is youth. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of youth injection, and I think with that comes growing pains.
Yep.
So there might be ups and downs. Even their star defenseman's only 25. So. Yep. It's a bit like I think this is going to be a solid decor. I just think there's going to be ups and downs at time, just because of they're young and playing as a defenseman in the NHL is the hardest position, like next to goaltender. It's extremely hard.
Yeah.
So
I mean, outside of the two G's, I'm not even going to try to say their name, right? How you call it? Everybody's approaching, getting close to where their prime should be starting, whereas those two, the G guys, I'm going to call that the G defensive pairing, they're kind of like at their prime, right? 26, right. You're hitting your prime. 30, you're in your prime. So, like, what you see right now, that's what you're going to get from that line, right? Yeah. They should be around the same thing towards the end of the season, right? That younger defense, the first defensive pairing, they're a little bit younger. Obviously, Zachary's reaching his prime, and he's looking good doing it. Boqvist is still young, so he's got some things to learn. The growing pains are going to be there, in my opinion. But, I think that for them, having that type of offensive power on the first line might open up their offense in a way where one of these defensive pairings is going to be able to grow that way, right?
Yeah.
Grow with that line. As far as the other lines, that's where, it's going to be difficult. Whoever's going to be covering for, like, the second line and the third line and the fourth line, as they figure it out at the beginning of the season, I think that's where it's going to be the roughest. But once they find, like I said, once they find their groove, it's going to be a solid team. defensively, mixing into the forward lines.
So, this is the thing. Like, I think it's going to be, I think an average to above average decor. I mean, I'm actually more average because I think, it's going to be up and down just due to the youth factor. And, can Boquist really be on a number one pairing? I think I wouldn't be shocked if you see Branson with Werenski at some point. But, I just, it's going to be an interesting season. I think there's a lot of upside, and they could, if they really develop well, they could be looking at a really solid decor for a long time. Now, going to the goaltenders, you have Elvis Merzlikins. He had 59 games played last season, 3.22 goals against, 907 save percentage, 27 wins, 23 losses. You have Korpisalo. He had a really rough season last season. 22 games played, 4.15 goals against, an 8.77 save percentage, and 7 wins, 11 losses. And, I feel like you have to mention that with this, is that you had Kilnevics literally die in front of him. Like a friend of his, a longtime friend of him at that party with a firework that hit him in the chest.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give him a pass on last year. Just because I think there was so much emotional stuff with that. Emotional drama. Like he just wasn't right, man. You could just tell he just wasn't right. And I think there was so many different things on the ice, probably grieving, probably going through a lot of things. I legitimately, for the human side of me, I want this guy to have a fantastic season. I want him to absolutely kill it. But looking at this tandem, they're an average NHL tandem. Like, I don't think Merzlikins as your one, you're ever going to go anywhere deep. Mm-hmm. But, he's an average NHL goalie who will eventually probably become a solid backup. But this tandem doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, I don't see much out of them either. I think they're too average. And at the end of the day, like I said in a previous show, your goaltenders are going to have to be able to steal one here and there. These guys don't have any signs of that. They haven't proven that they can. It's really going to fall on the team in front of them to do all the work.
Right.
They just got to make the simple saves. I think that for a goalie tandem like this, that's the biggest key, is just make the simple saves. Don't do anything crazy. Don't go trying to puck handle and do all that stuff. Keep your game simple and help your team by making the necessary saves that you are required to make, the very simple ones. Anything after that is on the team, not the goalie. Right, so
yeah.
That's going to be the big thing for them. Simplify the game. Let your team know this is where the line is drawn. You're going to keep it simple. You're not going to be out there trying to do all this crazy stuff. You're not going to be able to make those crazy acrobatic saves. In my opinion, I think just keep the game simple for yourselves, right, and give your team a chance. You do that, and they're probably going to go a little bit further.
Well, I think Columbus is like an interesting team, and I think there's some upside, but I think there's also some negatives to it. So let's get into it. They didn't do amazing last season. They were like 37 wins, 38 losses, 7 overtime losses. They were 81 points on the season on a very stacked division. I'll actually lead this off. I see them kind of finishing exactly where they finished the last season.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's the funny part. I was thinking the same thing. I was like 5th best, but they were going to stay around 6.
I could even, I hate to say it this way, and it depends on how much Tortorella does, and we'll talk about them soon. Maybe they see a bump, but even that I doubt. So I think 6. I think the Islanders are better. I think Washington, Pittsburgh, Rangers, I think they're better formed teams. But Columbus has a culture of playing very good defense, so who knows? They could surprise us. You know what I mean? They could absolutely surprise us and be like, really kind of lean into that, play a very heavy trap game, and kind of make sure that it's like a defense first mentality, and that can win you games. Like Barry Trotz with the Islanders a couple seasons ago went to the Eastern Conference Finals due to that. It wasn't because the Islanders were super talented. I mean, you had Barzal like when he was doing well, but let's be honest, it wasn't like that team was super deep. They just played a good defensive mindset. So it really does kind of, maybe they put a system in place where they're like, all right, we're limited. Maybe we do like a 1-1, you know what I mean, like a 1-1-2 type forecheck. It's just, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to kind of see how this goes, but I don't really see them finishing sixth. So, anything else to add?
No, I'm on the same page. I don't think they're moving too much further. I think best case scenario for them, they move up to fifth. But that's about it. I don't think they fully have everything together. I think this year is more of like building chemistry and seeing what's missing, more than being competitive to go for the title. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Columbus, fans, you do have some things to look forward to, but I just don't see, I'm not optimistic that you guys will make the playoffs. So,